In November of 2024, drone sightings of unidentified drones started popping up in New Jersey and New York, some even causing the shutting of airports. It's been a big deal. And while government officials have told us there's nothing to worry about, there's a lot to unpack here. And I think this might just be the start of something, and more change with regards to drones are coming. So let's see if we can't figure this out together. I'm Ricky, and this is 2-Bit Vinci. This video is brought to you by Opera. Now, the sales of drones is big business. We have over 1 million registered, but we'll get back to what registration actually means. And about 400,000 registrations have been for commercial drones, and about 950,000 trust certificates have been issued for their use. So drones in the last 10 years have gotten really good and really cheap, and that's why they're so prolific. Now, with regards to this recent cropping of stories about drone sightings, let's go through a timeline of events. On November 18th, New Jersey State Police began receiving reports of drone sightings. In early December, drones were seen flying over Bernardsville, New Jersey. On December 5th, multiple drones are observed flying over a neighborhood in the Bronx of New York. December 13th, the U.S. Northern Command states that they have not actually received any requests from local law enforcement to assist with the drone situation. But later on the night of December 13th, drone activity forces the temporary shutdown of runways at Stewart International Airport in Orange County, New York, for approximately an hour. On December 14th, Governor Kathy Hochul of New York announces the airport shutdown. That same day, Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey sends a letter to President Joe Biden requesting for federal resources to investigate the drone sightings. December 15th, 2 individuals are arrested in Boston for flying drones near Logan International Airport. December 16th, New York announces and deploys the Robin radar system to track drones and identify them. We'll get back to that here in a minute. And by December 17th, a resident in Harwick, Cape Cod, reports seeing 10 to 15 drones over her house. And more recently, Governor Larry Hogan reports observing potential drones in Maryland. Now, senators like Chuck Schumer have been pushing for answers in legislation to help local law enforcement with more power to be able to investigate these sightings. And Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas has confirmed that sightings include drones and actually manned aircraft, but state that there is no foreign involvement. One of the biggest disturbances of this entire story is the potential for shutting down airports. As you can imagine, airport security is incredibly intense, and airspace over airports is very restrictive. So any sort of drone activity near airports is going to be really bad, potentially shutting down runways and operations. And for all the holiday travelers right now, you can imagine how much angst that would cause. But the bottom line is, currently, we have a bunch of speculation, but there is no definitive answer to actually what's happening or who are operating these drones. But some of the possibilities include just individuals, people without any kind of malicious intent, just flying drones, possibly illegally, and not observing all the regulations. And of course, the coordinated nature of some of these stories, especially like 10 and 15 drones all together, might suggest more organized groups and coordinated efforts, which is kind of scary. And finally, foreign entities trying to do espionage or take recon of military installations or something like that. That would be probably the worst case scenario. But the official word so far is there's no evidence to say that that's what's happening. Now, drones are an interesting new technological breakthrough. While iPhones and other smartphones that have Wi-Fi connectivity have raised concerns, we're talking about potentially banning TikTok because of where the data goes and where the servers live. Drones take things to another level, because while drones are amazing and take incredible cinematography for great videos that we all love, they're also incredibly complex systems that fly through restricted airspaces and take pictures. And some of them are even big enough to be able to carry payloads and things. So on the spectrum of pure freedom and letting anybody who wants to fly a drone, to pure security where we completely ban drones in their entirety, there's going to be a sweet spot, something we're going to have to figure out in terms of legislation and FAA regulations. But we'll get back to that. With all the amazing apps available today, it always surprises me that my favorite app is still my web browser. And for the past couple of months, I've been using the new Opera One R2 browser. Here are a few reasons why I made the switch, and I think you'll love it too. Its gorgeous reimagined interface makes browsing the web a delight. With tab islands, you can group similar tabs and move them around together. My favorite feature is split screen. Just grab a tab, drag it downward to create a split view. I use this all the time to read an article and take notes side by side. And while researching possible video ideas, I use Opera's Aria AI to quickly mock up thumbnail concepts to share with my team. Opera's Aria AI can even make sense of the websites you visit. Media management is amazing. You can pop out your video to keep working on other things as you watch. You can control your favorite music platforms like Apple Music or Spotify, and it even makes it easy to keep track of your social media and stay up to date. And the entire experience is really customizable too, with different themes that can completely change the way it feels. Come see what over 25 years of experience building a better browsing experience looks like, with killer performance, customization, and security with Opera One R2. Use my links in the description to get started today. Huge thanks to Opera and you. Now back to the show. So let's talk a little bit about the level of regulations that exist for drones right now. The FAA establishes guidelines and regulations for the operation of drones here in the US. For recreational use, pilots must pass the FAA's Recreational UAS Safety Test, or TRUST. It's free, it's online, and it covers all the regulations and airspace restrictions that you need to be able to comply with, get a certification to allow you to operate a drone. Now, this requirement applies to all drones that weigh more than 0.55 pounds. That means any drone weighing more than 0.55 pounds must be registered with the FAA. Drones must be flown at or below 400 feet in Class G uncontrolled airspace, and they have to be kept within visual line of sight of the operator at all times. And drones must be operated at a flight speed of less than 100 miles an hour, which is actually really generous. And I can imagine that's going to come down here in the future. But of course, drone pilots must yield the right of way to manned aircraft, and drones cannot be flown from a moving vehicle unless in a sparsely populated area. Now, if you're going to use a drone for commercial reasons, maybe you're going to do wedding photography or filming videos and stuff, you have to get a commercial license, which requires you to be 16 years or older and requires passing an exam for aeronautical knowledge and other requirements such as understanding and speaking English, because that's how the communications with ground control would happen. And of course, you've got to be mentally and physically able to operate a drone safely. Now, all drones must be registered as well, regardless of weight. So there's no exceptions. All drones have to be registered for that. A really interesting unintended consequence of regulation is you'll see how products are made around the rules. I'll give you an example. This is DJI's website, and DJI probably makes the most amazing drones you can buy. They're just leaps and bounds ahead of the other people in the field. But here's a look at their DJI Mini line. And if you look right here, that is what the Minis weigh. And as you can imagine, that is intentional. They made this drone because you can fly it recreationally for your own purposes without any registration. This is light enough that it doesn't qualify. Now, the other bigger, more professional ones with better cameras and better visuals, imaging, and flight times do weigh enough that they need to be registered. But the DJI Mini doesn't have to be, which means that you can buy a Mini 3 or 2 on eBay used for a couple $100. That's how cheap these have gotten. One of the things that we should probably talk about is what this is all going to mean for some of the companies in this space. Now, this is the GoPro Karma. This was supposed to be the answer to American drones at the height of GoPro. But this turned out to be not very good, didn't work very well, didn't sell well, and now you can buy one for like a couple of bucks. The good news is they are bringing it back, and they are planning to make a new version. So maybe, who knows, we'll see a new GoPro that is actually pretty usable. But the problem is there are really no American options. The best-selling drones are all from China. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to see some regulations that will restrict where drones can come from. Now, in this year's FY25 NDAA, which is the National Defense Authorization Act, there's a special section called Section 1709, which covers drones. And the idea is to not allow drones from China to be imported and sold here in the US. Now, if this were to take effect over a year, this would start to impact the drones that are going to be sold and the ones that are already in service. And the rationale is if a foreign country is selling drones with malicious software that's like taking your video and uploading it to some cloud without you knowing about it, there could be unintended consequences, and it could pose a national security threat. The big challenge with the drone is they're not just fun toys like iPhones and iPads. They are seriously kind of dangerous. I mean, something could happen. There are reasons for us to be alarmed and concerned. And what this is going to do for the industry is interesting. Now, again, this is America, the land of the free market. It seems a little draconian or a little bit heavy-handed, but national security kind of trumps all. And there's going to be some winners and losers. Maybe GoPro or some other American companies can step their game up and start making better drones, and we see a shift. Maybe DJI just continues to dominate. Maybe nothing comes of this. But this is kind of what's shaking out, is how the proposed changes and regulations and national security are going to shape the landscape of future drones and drone operation. So let's talk a little bit about the proposed changes that have been brought forth after this whole debacle. The Counter-UAS Authority Security, Safety, and Reauthorization Act. This bill would reform legal authorities to counter unmanned aircraft systems and strengthen the FAA's oversight of drones. It would also extend counter-UAS activities to selected state and local law enforcement agencies. Second, increase state and local authority. Governor Hochul and other lawmakers are calling for increased authority for state and local enforcement to investigate and address drone threats, because again, these are local problems. It's hard to handle this at the federal level when there's something happening in your backyard. Now, this includes the ability to track down drone operators, enforce regulations, and potentially take down drones that pose a threat. Finally, enhance collaboration and resources, where lawmakers are emphasizing the importance of collaboration between local law enforcement agencies, the FAA, and airports to ensure that they have the necessary tools and resources to keep airports safe. This includes providing adequate funding, training, and technology to effectively monitor and respond to drone activity. So one of the most concrete measures that I've heard of so far is what New York is doing with the Robin radar system. Here's some of the key benefits of this system. It has 360 coverage in 3D. So it provides complete awareness of drone activity in all the surrounding airspace, and allows for comprehensive monitoring and early detection of potential threats. Now, we have radar. We've had radar for a very long time. The problem is drones fly very low, and they're very small. So it's hard to distinguish that from other things like birds and whatnot. The drone detection range is up to 3 miles away. So this provides ample time for authorities to be able to detect and take action against any sort of unidentified drones. It also has really good drone classification, which means that it can detect from about a mile away what kind of drone it is, the size of it, and is it maybe even potentially what model it is. That way, that information is available for crucial decision-making and next steps if the operator can't be found or the drone doesn't respond or comply to messages that are received. And this is interesting. It has micro Doppler. So it detects the Doppler shift to be able to tell if a drone is flying away from you or toward you, and uses deep neural network technology to be able to distinguish birds and other objects. So it detects what looks like a drone, sees if it behaves like a drone, is it hovering in the air like a hummingbird, and it can actually figure that out and remove the false positives of birds and other flying things. And it can do all this with drones that fly up to 60 miles an hour. Remember earlier when I mentioned that currently drones can fly under 100 miles an hour? That means that if you're flying 95 miles an hour, you would overshoot the capabilities of this system to detect. And I think that's where some of those numbers are going to start coming down. I think we're going to start to restrict further and further some of these luxuries. I hate to say it, but I think the golden era of drone operations are over. And for anybody who loves drones and loves taking cinematography to the next level, enjoy it while it lasts. I don't know. I do think that it's going to potentially be on the chopping block. If I'm honest, I'm shocked that this hasn't happened sooner. It's a classic example of why we can't have nice things. On the surface, if you're using a drone responsibly, it's an amazing piece of technology. From an engineering standpoint, the progress with drones has been nothing short of remarkable. These used to be expensive and really bad not too long ago. Now, for $500 for that DJI Mini, you have a fully stabilized and high 20-mile-an-hour wind gimbal camera that can take 4K and fly for 25 minutes or so for like $500. It's absolutely amazing from an engineering perspective. This isn't an engineering problem. This truly is the potential for bad actors to do bad things, and why there might be cause for alarm. Now, I know that most people, most lawmakers and regulators are saying that there's nothing to worry about and that there's no evidence of, foreign militaries or foreign governments involved. But the truth of the matter is, that's really a challenging problem. As far as are we safe or should we be worried, I don't think there's anything really that we know at this point that should cause us to be worried. But I do think a healthy level of fear or concern is probably a good thing. We are entering an era where this is going to be happening more often. By the way, one of the things that happens in human psychology is the first time somebody reports like unidentified drones, all of a sudden you just start noticing it. Maybe you didn't notice it as much before. So these stories are going to start coming in often, in my opinion. And I'll be honest, a couple of months ago, I saw a drone flying over my house, and I had no idea who it was. And it was just flying right overhead, camera shooting down, probably filming, I don't know. And it made me really angry. I mean, the fact that I couldn't do anything about it, I don't believe I'm allowed to take any kind of action. I couldn't shoot it down or shoot a BB gun at it or something like that. But it did make me angry. So you could just kind of extrapolate out how concerned citizens would be, especially if people are infringing on our privacy in our homes and our backyards. It is a little bit of a concerning topic, to be sure. I think this is just the beginning of this. I think we're going to see a lot more stories that unfold in the coming weeks and months where unidentified drones are going to start to pop up in the news. And I think at some point, there's not going to be a clear and cut answer to how to address this, right? I always look as an engineer for where's a healthy balance of, in this case, freedom and security. In this particular example, it's really hard to say because drones are just going to get better, longer lasting, higher range, higher speed, and lower cost all the time. And so this is one of those where all it'll take is one bad actor to really so easy to get away with. Don't be surprised if that DJI Mini 249 gram rule, where if you have any drone under 0.55 pounds, you don't have to register it, goes away if the top speeds come down and a lot more. But this is going to unfurl, and hopefully this gives you a little bit of perspective on what we know and what's going to come. And while we don't have any real cause for concern yet, definitely worth keeping a finger on the pulse of this one, and we'll make more content if more information comes to light. All right, that is a quick look at the drone debacle. Honestly, I'm shocked that this hasn't already happened. How has this not happened years ago? Drones are kind of prolific at this point. But yes, and sound off below where you think we should fall on this. Do you think we should be taking action and restricting certain countries from importing drones? Should we ban them all? Should we let them all be? Where do you fall on this debate? I'd love to know because there really ultimately is no right answer. So sound off below. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ricky with Vinci. Thank you so much.